Alrighty, looks like both teams are at full strength, so I presume the game's going to get underway here in just a moment. Both teams loaded up, they got their flags up, got all 5 players on each team, and we're going to be underway. I'm going to go ahead and switch over the overlays, get straight into the draft, and we'll get down to business. There is a 4-minute delay on today's stream to prevent screen sniping and all of that other funness. So I think the league requirement is a 2-minute delay, but I like to increase that a bit more just to make sure that if there is sniping going on, that teams are getting the most value out of their ward placement and everything else. So a few pleasantries being traded back and forth here as the game gets started. Thank yous coming out from Hardcore Pone, who is going under the name SNK. So I may be looking at the wrong team here. No, that's they're listed as Hardcore Pone in the AD2L league, but it looks like their in-game group name is SNK Esports. So if you hear me call them SNK or Hardcore Pone, it's one and the same for the duration of this game.
Radiant team ban.
So SNK going to have the first ban, first pick. They're going to be playing on the Dire side of the map with Here Comes the Cobra, also known as Cobra Boys, playing the Radiant side. Both teams banning out some meaty heroes, some nuisance heroes in the Undying and the Lesharok.
5 seconds remaining.
We have some last-minute requests coming in from the Twitch chat to request various music, but unfortunately it's a little too late as the game is now underway, so I'm not going to be rocking the Die Antwoord Enter the Ninja music over the top of Dota. The second ban for both teams coming out as Bloodseeker and Queen of Pain. These are pretty common bans, and of course Queen of Pain, I think, having one of the highest pick ban rates in 6A3 at the professional level right now. She's a very popular mid, but there's so many dangerous mid players that it's impossible to ban them all out, even if you're dedicating every ban slot you have. One of them's going to sneak through and get picked.
5 seconds remaining.
So Gyrocopter, a very popular farming hard carry hero picked up by SNK Esports as their first pick, showing they're not afraid to pick a hard carry as their first player, but it also allows Cobra Boys to choose their heroes, their supports around what SNK Esports has already shown to be their most likely candidate for a safe lane farm. Cobra Boys picking up the Disruptor as their first pick and their first support on their team, with Shadow Fiend being the second pick, and their most the player they'll probably be putting in the middle lane.
Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining.
Crystal Maiden.
Dire team ban.
how long is the match? I'm being asked by
10
Twitch
seconds
chat right
remaining.
now, which I'm not sure how to answer that. Um,
5 seconds remaining.
do long match is 45 minutes on
Radiant
average,
team ban.
somewhere around there. Give or take 10 minutes, kind of depending on how stompy the game is.
Dire team ban.
The first support pickup from SNK Esports is the Crystal Maiden.
10 seconds
She
remaining.
will likely be sitting in the dire
5
jungle
seconds
and
remaining.
dire safe lane, protecting that gyrocopter and of course getting a little bit of neutral farm
Reserve
herself
time.
from the frostbite. It's pretty easy to pull one of those big creeps, throw a frostbite on it, and walk away. Because as the mechanic works, it lasts 10 seconds on creeps level 6 or below. So it doesn't have just the 1 or 2 second duration that is applied to heroes. It allows Crystal Maiden that extra capability in terms of finding farm by herself in the neutral
Radiant
areas of
team
the map.
ban.
Now we're into the... Well, there's several more mid heroes being banned out by Cobra Boys. They've banned out 4 middle heroes so far out of their 4 ban choices in the Leshrock, Queen of Pain, Viper, and Storm Spirit. The ban outs from SNK Esports, however, changing up to ban out a bit of the hard carry options available to Cobra Boys, banning out the Cancer Lancer, banning out the Anti-Mage. Anti-Mage, kind of an interesting ban out here,
10
as well as
seconds
the
remaining.
Phantom Lancer. Phantom Lancer, while definitely a nuisance
5
super
seconds
late in the
remaining.
game, I don't believe he's that difficult to deal with when you have a gyrocopter and a Crystal Maiden. Of course, Crystal Maiden's Frost Nova slowing down the attack speed and the movement in an area of effect. So between that, Flak Cannon, and even Rocket Barrage, they do have a fair amount of early AoE to kind of chunk through that Phantom Lancer health pool, which at the very beginning of the game is not that robust. But either way, they decide they don't want to have to deal with it one way or another. They ban it out so it won't be seen. Cobra Boys responds by picking up their off lane in the Darkseer. And so that leaves their hard carry and what I presume is going to be kind of that 4th slot support role, with Disruptor playing the 5th slot. The fun thing about the 4th slot support is it can literally be anyone, as long as they can rotate decently. Oh, we got a new follower here from Oreo Stein. Thank you, I appreciate it. Covering up Darkseer's face there a little bit.
Sven stands ready.
And Cobra Boys do pick out their hard carry for their 4th pickup overall, and that is on the Sven. SNK Esports grabbing the Ogre Magi. And he'll be playing what I presume to be the 4th slot support. So there'll still be a mid and an off lane, unless they decide to throw Ogre Magi in the off lane by himself, which would be a little dangerous with a Sven and Disruptor. Disruptor's capability of controlling the tempo of a fight is one of the things that I love about the hero. Between Kinetic Field and Glimpse, Thunder Strike's okay for that initial
Templar
damage
assassin.
in the lane and everything, and the harass,
Radiant
but
team
I
ban.
really like his tempo control from the Glimpse and Kinetic Field. You have to put at least 1 point into Kinetic Field, and after that you can kind of allocate where you want. But just, it creates that lockdown area of destruction that you don't want to be in. And it plays really well into the rest of their heroes.
10
If you
seconds
get
remaining.
a good vacuum into a kinetic field, they're trapped in that area.
5 seconds
You follow that
remaining.
up with a couple Shadow Raises and Stormhammer, Sven's stun, and everyone's just going to explode.
Radiant team
The
pick.
only one who could survive something like that right now would be the last pickup from SNK Esports, who was Templar Assassin. If she's able to pop Refraction, she might be able to sit in there and weather some of the damage. but right now, Cobra Boy's AoE teamfight potential is pretty ridiculous. You definitely don't want to get caught into a
10 seconds
vacuum
remaining.
race, stun, kinetic field, storm
5
hammer,
seconds remaining.
every one of their abilities, even Sven's passive cleaves, is
Reserve
going
time.
to be creating havoc inside of the kinetic fields. The last bands to be thrown out there are the Earthshaker and the Tusker. I think the Earthshaker band's a great ban out. Again, it synergizes well with the rest of the AoE capabilities of Cobra, and it does allow, it is a very strong 4th slot support with the roaming fissures, which can catch heroes out of position and prevent their retreat. But Cobra Boys doesn't mind too much. There's plenty of other supports in the pool to draw from, and they pick Witch Doctor with his cask and, of course, his totem,
10 seconds
the
remaining.
Death Ward,
For the trees.
being capable of bouncing to multiple targets once he gets the Aghanim's Scepter. And beyond that, it provides a heal to the team, which will always be beneficial to provide some additional sustain. SNK Esports, with their 5th slot, looks like they're going to be picking up a Nature's Prophet. I'm curious to see if this is going to be a Jungle Nature's, with an Ogre taking the offlane role, or if Nature's Prophet's going to take that offlane role and Ogre is going to be the roaming support and kind of 4-slot support, supporting the SNK Esports side of the fence. So, with the picks and bans underway, we go live into the game. Going to toss up the Darmin branded overlays, and
Prepare for
this
battle.
particular background is a bit busy, so I'm just going to throw it. Well, let's give you guys a Death Prophet announcer and some GLaDOS. I'm going to throw the normal HUD up. Not that you guys can see most of it anyway, because it's hidden behind the wonderfully beautiful Darmin cast overlays. Got Shadow Fiend calling out that there's fun picks on both sides, and it's going to be interesting how the game plays out, because right now, if this is to go into a team fight scenario, I heavily favor the Cobra Boys, Here Comes the Cobra lineup, with every one of them having great team fight potential, great team fight synergy. And if the game turns into a gank fest with players being caught out and isolated, I favor SNK Esports. So, going through the introductions here, while we are paused, you have HCC Robinson playing the Darkseer, and he disconnected there very briefly. You have Sven being played by Loose Puss. The screen's not wanting to cooperate with me here, keeps forcing me into the fountain. Got HCC KC playing the Shadow Fiend with his rare immortal arm cosmetics on the Shadow Fiend. Looks like he's also rocking the Arcana. So, Shadow Fiend, clearly a character that he likes to play. Disruptor being played by Senix. He too rocking one of the immortal pieces on his back. Ping's coming out very feverishly here, so I'm trying to keep an eye on that. But Witch Doctor being played by HCC Wayne's World. That's it for the first team. For the Radiant team, and they're all getting into position into this bottom lane here. And it looks like for the first rooms you're going to have a 1-for-1 exchange unless SNK Silver, who's playing the Nature's Prophet, is able to deny that first room with his little treant. But for the rest of the players, we have Gyrocopter being played by SNK
Blessings.
Spursman Spurf. SNK Kevdog playing the mid lane on Templar Assassin. SNK Burska Durska playing Crystal Maiden as she gets up onto the high ground ready to place a ward. SNK Jesus Was My Dad playing the Ogre Magi, who is in the Dire safe lane. So he'll be working alongside Crystal Maiden to protect their gyrocopter. And of course, as I announced in the offlane there is the SNK Silver, who's eating a little bit of a harassment damage from the Disruptor. But both supports working their way into the jungle. They're going to be looking to stack and provide that additional farm for the Sven once he gets a couple points into cleave and maybe some lifesteal. The opposite side of the map, you have Ogre Magi doing the stack game himself and getting ready to pull the creep wave back for some easy last hits by the gyrocopter. But as it sits, they are going into a lane against a Darkseer, and so the lane's going to be pushed out pretty frequently. A little bit of harass coming from the two supports, but they're not going to commit too much, especially with Darkseer having a point into Surge. He escapes pretty quickly. There is the sentry ward placed by Silver, which blocks out the first couple pulls on the easy camp in the Radiant jungle, but they quickly buy a sentry ward, drop one, and it's just out of range of the observer ward. I mean, it is close, but no cigar. They do catch out the enemy sentry ward, and so they are going to be able to get their safe lane spawn at the 2-minute mark. Crystal Maiden finding the regeneration rune in the top rune spot and protecting it for the Templar Assassin. Meanwhile, Casey, sitting on the Shadow Fiend, is trying to get a little bit of farm. He does not have his bottle yet. Looks like it's on its way. There it is. But just about 50 seconds, 60 seconds behind Templar Assassin. So Templar Assassin will benefit from having the top rune controlled by her ally support characters, and she'll benefit from having a very early regeneration rune, allowing her to be a little bit more aggressive, expend that mana on refraction, and get those last hits. Even at the cost of quite a bit of harass here. And she goes in, and she pays the price for it, regeneration or not. HUCKC landing some beautiful, what looked to be a triple raise combo, and drops her before she has a chance to back out into safety. She ate a lot of right-click damage there as she went in for the farm, and that popped through her refraction, which at this point is only level 2, so it's only got, what is that, 4 charges on it? So she ate enough right-click for the Shadow Raises to deal the damage they're supposed to deal instead of being negated in their entirety. And it's a very good heads-up display by our heads-up play by Casey, who noticed that those refraction charges were down and then popped everything he had. Of course, the timing of his bottle was great as well because it allowed him to recover from that expended mana. He rotated bottom and refilled it right away with haste. So Kev Dog on the Templar Assassin going to be playing from a slight disadvantage. There are smokes coming out from SNK though, realizing that she is playing from a little bit of a disadvantage here with Shadow Fiend getting the last hits and now up to 22 souls. They realize they're going to need to lock him down before he starts dealing too much damage.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
They get in position, but they are definitely seen right now by the Radiant Ward in the Ancient area. So the smoke expired, they were spotted out, and Shadow Fiend taking the time to go into his jungle and clear out the stacks that had been
Radiant's middle
built up
tower
for
is
him.
under
So
attack.
he'll get that increased damage as his third point into Necromastery gets placed, and he'll return to the lane under the effect of haste, but not do too much with it. Just continue to get those last hits in that farm. There is a rotation from Cobra Boys coming with Witch Doctor getting ready to throw out the cask. It does land on two, but they separate, and it's only going to get one bounce on each. So successful retreat by SNK Esports. As they get to the high ground, they don't eat too much damage with the relatively early rotation from the Witch Doctor, who brings with him a gift in the Observer Ward, allowing Shadow Fiend to spot out that Templar assassin if she ever does decide to just sit there and shadow meld in front of him. But for now, he rotates top. He's following that Queen of Pain, and Disruptor himself has rotated top, so they're looking to dive behind the tower with the double damage. Call down lands. The first missile, the second missile, it's doing a lot of damage, but there's so many heroes from the Radiant side up here that it's a 4 versus 3. Everyone's weak though, so the offlane Nature's Prophet decides to teleport top to see if he can turn the tables a little bit, but with a double damage, Shadow Fiend sitting on top of 29 soul charges. He's doing just way too much damage right now, over 200 damage with right clicks alone, and they drop him and they pick up their 4th kill in the top lane, losing just a Witch Doctor themselves. Taking a look over at the net worth. Sorry about that, thought we might have had some additional murder going on in the top lane. But with that big kill, and it looks like Shadow Fiend got all 4 of those. So he skyrocketed to the top of the net worth chart, putting him a full 1,200 above his middle counterpart in the Templar Assassin. So right now, KC is looking very strong, looking good to go. He's got his full power treads, bottle and a ring of Aquila, and he's rotating early, he's rotating strong, and he's putting pressure on the Dire team. The Gyrocopter taking just constant harass damage from these ion shells being placed by the Darkseer, so he's constantly sitting at about that half HP mark, which is terrifying when you have multiple rotations coming out from Here Comes the Cobra, and they look to do it again. They might catch out a Crystal Maiden here. They do. The 2 supports see her. They throw out the stun, the kinetic field. A Shadow Race slightly off the mark, but he's just going to walk up and right-click her down, and that'll be the death of the Crystal Maiden. So probably not the kill they were looking for, probably just a consolation prize next to the Gyrocopter, but with the Observer Ward here, they do see the Templar Assassin rotating in with the Invisibility Rune. He's not aware that they have vision in the area, so he tries to meld, and down he goes. The 3 heroes, the 2 supports in the mid from Cobra Boys, claiming their, well, I'm going to say that's 4th, 5th, 6th kill in about 6 minutes. So KC on the Shadow Fiend being involved in all 7 of these kills, getting the first blood solo himself against the Templar Assassin, and then being there for the remainder of the 6 kills. So he's getting a lot of experience, he's getting a lot of gold, a lot of farm, and right now Templar Assassin is 2,200, just like that. She swings another 1,000 gold behind the net worth of the Shadow Fiend. Shadow Fiend grabbing a Shadow Amulet himself, and I zoom up top to catch the last dying breath of the Gyrocopter, who finally felt confident enough to step away from his tier 1 tower, but paid the price for it. Looked like there was a bit of ion shell damage, as well as the Disruptor and the other support with the Witch Doctor there to put him in his place and make him pay for leaving the safety of his tower. Meanwhile, Crystal Maiden rotating to the middle lane. She's level 3, trying to soak up a little bit of experience herself, it looks like, with Templar Assassins stacking up the Ancient Creeps. They need to be very careful with that, make sure that they drop that before the Shadow Fiend gets a chance to. And it looks like she's going to take care of that right now. Try to get back in this game, try to get a little bit more farm and a little bit more experience herself.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
But when Refraction's not on, she's taking a bit of a beating. So she's trying to carefully kite the creeps around.
Dire's middle tower has fallen.
But while she's busy working on the Ancients, the Crystal Maiden is not in position to defend against a farmed and fed Shadow Fiend. So the middle tower goes down. The supports in the off lane catch out Gyrocopter farming in the safe lane. He had used his call down on the neutral creeps here, and Cobra Boys use that as an opportunity to jump on them. They commit the Witch Doctor ultimate, but it's worth a kill against the hard carry, especially at this point in the game. That ward's only got a minute cooldown, so it'll be back in no time. They'll spend this 60-second cooldown just right-clicking down some towers, and I look for these supports to rotate to the bottom lane and start to put some pressure against the Nature's Prophet. With the Nature's Prophet on the team, you're always hoping that your team is the one able to apply pressure to the opposing towers. But so far this game, that has not been the case, with a very rough start coming out from SNK, as the game is starting out with a 9-1, and the only death from Cobra Boys coming by way of the Witch Doctor. You turn around for a second, and they catch Gyrocopter out again. It looks like he was able to get the call down dropped before his death, but it's not going to do much against the 3-hero lineup in the Darkseer, Shadow Fiend, and Witch Doctor. KC, feeling bold, feeling empowered, feeling fat after all that early farm, dives behind the tier 2 tower, looking to catch someone out. They do see the Ogre Magi there. They don't want to dive into the tower range quite yet, but they were hoping to catch someone between the tier 2 and tier 3 towers. Dire calling out his position, his rotation, as they do have an observer ward here in, I don't know, what I call the middle edge ward spot. But he quickly teleports to the bottom lane. Kinetic Field is dropped, as well as a Glimpse, but that actually might allow TA to escape. They're looking to pound on where they thought she was, but the Glimpse allows her to rotate through the Radiant jungle and to her safety. If they had left her inside that Kinetic Field, she would likely have fallen along with her Nature's Prophet comrade, but that's enough space for Cobra Boys to take down this final tier 1 tower that was standing by the Dire team and look to put pressure on the tier 2. SNK Esports looking to just get their second tower of the game, and they're going to sacrifice that tier 2 tower in hopes of getting a little bit of farm themselves, but Cobra Boys not ready to give up anything yet. Support blinks into the tower, teleports into the tower, and between the ultimate and the Kinetic Field, Sonics is able to drop Ogre Magi in a 4 vs 1 encounter. All he had was himself and the tower, and it was enough to not only scare off the Dire team, but get a kill. And they're gonna hopefully drop this Cardi here, and then look to deny the middle tower, and that's exactly what they do. So the second Radiant tower going down, but it is denied. Meanwhile, Shadow Fiend does finally drop, but not after getting what would be his 9th kill of the game in Crystal Maiden.
Radiant structures are
But
fortified. Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Witch Doctor looking to get a little kill of his own.
Under attack.
Teleports to the top lane, drops his ward, commits it, and drops Shadow Fiend. Meanwhile, the off lane and Disruptor combo, killing off Gyromancer again. And some scribbles coming out on the screen from Here Comes the Cobra's Casey, telling them to check the jungle for some reason. But there's no one here. They're not going to be able to find anyone. except for the Gyromancer, whom they've already dropped. So, Disruptor and Darkseer getting a kill against the Gyrocopter. That brings his kill count up to 5. So, once every 3 minutes he's biting the dust. And Casey up to 9 kills with 1 death. That 1 death, of course, going to the Templar Assassin, though, so it puts him back in a decent position, as it provided 1,200, 1,300 gold to the Templar Assassin. So, it's not quite as rubber bandy as 683, but when you're getting 1,300 gold plus a bunch of experience for a single kill, you're okay with it. It allows you a little bit of breathing room and gets her back into the game.
Dire's top tower is
With
under
it,
attack.
she's finished her Blink Dagger and Mithril Hammer. The Dire jungle heavily warded, so they are spotting these rotations. But Silver doesn't seem to mind. He's going to go in and try to pick off a half HP Disruptor, but what he might not have realized was there were heavy supports in the area from Here Comes the Cobra. So before he's able to get a right click off, there's the stun coming out from Sven and the damage coming out from the rest of the team. So all 5 Radiant heroes in this top lane, they're looking to drop their second tier 2 tower of the game
Is under attack.
and put SNK Esports on the back foot. Both teams lobbying for position here. You got the supports kind of flanking into the jungle. But of course, Radiant are seeing all of this with their Big Rock Observer wards, their Big Rock Sentry wards, and the Dire team decide, you know what, we're just going to let that tower go.
Dire's top tower
We're not at
has
full
fallen.
strength. We don't have all of our spells. We need to get back and defend on the high ground, see what we can get. Ping's coming out on the Gyromancer on top of the Witch Doctor, saying, guys, we need to drop the healer. We need to make sure that that Death Ward does not get channeled for the entirety. Meanwhile, Nature's Prophet doing what Nature's Prophet does best. Split pushing. And Templar Assassin overcommits there. It looked like, yep, his refraction was on cooldown. He must have popped it eating a few too many Radiant creep hits and tower hits. And so he didn't have it to tank those heavy shadow raises coming out from KC. And once again, KC recognizes that, takes full advantage of it, drops the Templar Assassin with the Shadow Raise combo and the heavy right click damage. Here comes the Cobra, rotating through the off lane of the Dire team, seeing if they can catch someone out, but it expires. They're not going to catch anyone. So, both teams farming up a little bit right now. You got Witch Doctor farming the neutrals and the treants. In the Radiant jungle, you have Templar Assassin farming the mid, Sven farming some Radiant jungle, creeps himself. Shadow Fiend's going to be able to find himself a nice little invisibility rune, but he has sold his bottle, so he's just going to consume that right away, move into the top lane. But ping's coming out immediately from the Crystal Maiden. They're saying, meet under this sentry ward, let's see if we can drop him. And the big ultimate coming out from KC just explodes the Gyrocopter as he was standing right next to him. Crystal Maiden trying to get the frozen field off, is able to drop him to about 20-30% HP, but Gyrocopter Crystal Maiden combination, no match for the KC. They're also able to catch out the Templar Assassin as he rotates up trying to drop KC, and he gets caught out of position by the Sven and company, who finish him in the jungle, and then they turn to that middle and final tier 2 tower on the Dire side, drop it, and now are likely going to be looking to push high ground with 2 of the primary damage cores out of commission for SNK Esports. The glyph is popped, but Sven's hammering away on it anyway with his ultimate. Missile and call down coming out from the Gyrocopter, but Cask and a Death Ward coming out from Wayne's World. A Heal gets popped by the Radiant team, so there's not going to be any death there. The Maledict's damage plus Death Ward are enough to drop the Ogre Magi, and so Radiant look to regroup and push into this tier 3 tower, knowing that the Glyph is down. More homing missile damage coming out from Gyrocopter, this time against the Darkseer, but he just eats it and sitting under the Witch Doctor.